Narrative text explains how human emotions like happiness and sadness manifest as various vibrant crystalline structures. A pop sounds as the white-haired brother questions Pot's sudden career pivot toward working for Santa Claus. Potts expresses his deep desire to help human children, ignoring his brother's warnings about the difficult job. Time passes as Potts joyfully celebrates his graduation, holding his diploma aloft with a bright, triumphant smile. Potts' mood takes a sudden droop after failing the demanding Santa Claus entrance exams despite his top grades. 6 years later, Potts introduces himself as an employee of Memrise, appearing hopeful despite his past failure. Potts hops with joy and shares a high five, ecstatic after finally being scouted by Santa Claus. A whip sounds as Potts celebrates his persistence, thrilled that his 6 years of hard work finally paid off. A sudden whoosh carries Potts through a mirror portal as he descends toward a world on the other side. Potts lands with a quiet step, marveling at his arrival in the human world for the very first time. Potts glances around the crowded street, trying to remember the name of the person he is searching for. Chirp sounds as a dark-haired man named Tessa stands alone, unaware he is being watched from above. Tessa finds another bouquet left on the wall and wonders who keeps leaving these flowers for him again. A rustle sounds as Potts watches from hiding, wishing he could have given the bouquet to Tessa in person. Potts reveals himself with a bright beam, greeting the surprised Tessa by name with an enthusiastic smile. A whip and wish sound as Potts teleports excitedly, eager to hear the key to his dream job speak. Potts and Tessa share a tense pause as they lock eyes, both sides feeling a moment of sudden uncertainty. A loud smack and flinch follow as Tessa accidentally hits Potts while reacting to the invisible intruder's presence. Potts gulps, realizing he violated a core rule against unethical behavior toward humans while imagining his future failure. Potts tries to slip away as Tessa's students greet the professor, baffled that a human can actually see him. A clack sounds as Tessa brings Potts into an empty room, demanding to know the visitor's true identity. Potts removes his flying cape and laughs, while Tessa offers to bring him something to eat during their talk. A clack sounds as Potts stares intently while Tessa drinks his coffee, making the silent atmosphere incredibly awkward. A gentle tap-tap follows as Tessa encourages the flinching Potts to take his time explaining his difficult situation. Potts joyfully reintroduces himself, but quickly smacks his head in regret for revealing too much information to Tessa. Tessa leans back with a creak, wondering if the tan-haired boy's sudden arrival is just an elaborate prank. A dramatic dun-dun underscores Potts' serious declaration as he reveals to the calm Tessa that he isn't human. Potts gives a cheerful hee-hee, declaring with a bright smile that he is here to make Tessa happy. Under the starry night, Tessa reflects on the strange events of the day with a sense of lingering curiosity. Potts promises to return tomorrow, leaping away with a spring and leaving Tessa with a hopeful secret vow. Tessa turns in bed, admitting that while Potts' promise felt like an excuse, it was still nice to hear. The next day, the dark-haired Tessa walks through the university campus, appearing deep in his own quiet thoughts. Chirp sounds as Potts surprises Tessa with a massive bouquet of red roses, announcing his wish is love. Tessa smells the roses and admits his desire to experience love, catching Potts completely off guard. A crash and bump sound at the Memories Company as a clumsy Potts drops a heavy stack of papers. Potts struggles through his paperwork, letting out a frustrated and at his desk. Potts reacts with a bewildered after Tessa questions if seeking love is even possible for him. A ping sounds as Potts enthusiastically agrees to help Tessa find the love he seeks. Potts turns with excitement, explaining that love is the most common and rewarding human emotion. A tap sounds as Tessa observes Potts floating nearby, while Potts remains lost in deep thought. Tessa questions Potts' work ethic, but Potts insists that observing him is his actual job. Potts floats above Tessa, grunting as he tries to see what the professor is scribbling on his papers. A mysterious boy with a purple scarf appears, looking down with a gentle and warm expression. Potts pulls Tessa into a sudden, tight hug, surprising the dark-haired man with his physical affection. A creak sounds as Tessa pulls back, bewildered by the sudden embrace and asking what Potts is doing. Potts jolts with frustration, annoyed that Tessa didn't have the expected emotional reaction to the hug. Potts turns back and demands to know if Tessa felt any surprise or dislike during the hug. Potts explains that while humans can't see them, emotions create sparks that eventually turn into solid crystals. Tessa remains silent with a neutral expression, perhaps hiding his internal thoughts from the persistent visitor. Potts grabs Tessa and stares directly into his eyes, firmly declaring that the man is truly special. Potts asks the dark-haired Tessa to form a pact, but the professor immediately and flatly refuses. Potts explains his secret pact benefits them both, while the dark-haired Tessa finally agrees to trust him. Tessa reads over the official contract and scribbles his agreement, accepting the conditions to help Potts work. Now officially partners, Potts excitedly vows to do his best while Tessa realizes having company isn't so bad. Back home, Potts' white-haired brother sighs, having known his secret and demanding to join him tomorrow. Tessa stops at a street stall and politely thanks the green-haired vendor for her service. Tessa hears a rustle and decides to buy one more item with the same sauce from the smiling vendor. Returning to his room, Tessa feels a strange presence and questions who he was just talking to. A sudden pop sounds as Potts makes a grand entrance, making the startled Tessa flinch in surprise. Sitting in the office, Tessa learns that non-humans like Potts rarely eat human food due to money issues. Tessa informs Potts of his work schedule, while Potts nervously notes that his brother is likely watching nearby. A knock sounds as a student asks to enter, leaving a snacking Potts worried about being discovered. A creak follows as the female student enters, finding the dark-haired Tessa apparently hosting a visible snacking guest. Potts panics, realizing his invisibility cape is off and fumbling to explain the ridiculous situation to the bewildered Tessa. After the close call, a relieved sigh escapes Potts while Tessa questions why he wasn't wearing his uncomfortable cape. A creak sounds as Tessa listens to Potts' reckless offer of friendship, clearly skeptical of the boy's reasoning. Potts crawls onto the table with a thud, desperately pleading with the annoyed Tessa to be his friend. Potts frantically introduces the white fox as his brother, leaving the dark-haired Tessa completely bewildered. A dramatic dun underscores the appearance of the fluffy white fox, who finds the entire situation rather shocking. Another dun sounds as the dark-haired Tessa admits that a talking dog is even more shocking than a flyer. Tessa bows respectfully as he offers orange juice to the fluffy white fox, who didn't want to arrive empty-handed. Potts gleefully explains that his older brother has human money, while the white fox watches with a silent expression. Potts struggles to open his juice, prompting the helpful Tessa to offer his own already opened drink instead. Potts observes the empty classroom while holding the white fox, questioning why the young professor plans to leave soon. Potts asks for the white fox's opinion on Tessa, but the grumpy creature tells him to shut up. A female student finds the white fox adorable, while Potts awkwardly laughs and names the grumpy creature Honey. Honey the fox suggests Potts collect crystals while watching Tessa, offering to cover for him at his job. Potts gazes out with a soft smile, feeling content as he continues his mission to observe the professor. A whip sounds as Potts questions Tessa about his specific ideal type, muttering as he reads through the list. Potts lets out a roar of frustration, declaring the busy Tessa's highly independent dating preferences to be a major red flag. Potts follows Tessa's daily routine, observing him walk to school and take the tram when carrying heavy loads. Hidden in the bushes, Potts watches Tessa buy breakfast for his students, wondering if the professor is actually eating. Tessa shares his french fries with Potts, introducing the non-human to the strange white sauce and diced pickles. A smack sounds as the tan-haired Potts dismisses the students, while secretly thinking he needs to change his sword. A tap sounds as Potts scolds Tessa's students, reminding them that the professor's office is not a playground. Tessa wishes his students good luck on their finals, while Potts learns about the upcoming university festival. Potts observes the students leaving and feels they are just like them, while the students whisper about Tessa's guest. A poof sounds as Potts produces a scroll, excitedly declaring that making Tessa fall in love is his new goal. Potts explains he is reviewing crystal collection tasks sent by his brother as Tessa approaches with a quiet step. Tessa's students greet him with a laugh, noting his popularity while he maintains a polite and hard-working professional demeanor. An older man praises the young professor's hard work, leaving Tessa to smile politely as he finishes his rounds. Tessa tries to leave but is stopped by students wanting a word, forcing him to politely delay his departure. Tessa pauses in the hallway, suddenly calling out to Potts after feeling a strange shift in the atmosphere. Potts makes a sudden grab for Tessa, worriedly asking what's wrong after sensing a shift in his emotions. Potts explains his ability to track the emotions of those he's in charge of, leaving the dark-haired Tessa contemplative. Tessa remains silent, appearing impressed by Potts' professional dedication to monitoring his internal state. A flap sounds as Potts excitedly leads the way, inviting the dark-haired Tessa to watch him collect crystals. Potts warns that he must be careful around small animals to avoid accidentally altering their natural energy. Potts hops up to a high ledge with a whip, showing off his agility to the watching professor. Tessa offers to help the struggling Potts, but the tan-haired boy grunts while trying to handle it himself. A creak sounds as the dark-haired Tessa carefully reaches for a tiny white creature on the fragile roof. Tessa worries the roof might collapse, but a soft plop follows as he safely secures the small animal. A sudden crash and thud echo as the roof gives way, sending the panicked Potts rushing toward his fallen friend. A relieved ha escapes as Potts finds Tessa and the wagging creature both safe following the terrifying fall. A quick pat-pat follows as Potts realizes Tessa is hurt, noticing the painful scrapes on the professor's hand. Potts reaches out, feeling immense guilt for hurting a human, while Tessa insists he is actually quite all right. Potts points out a student at a cafe, hoping a meeting with the little dog will spark happiness. Potts reflects on the uncertainty of human connections while gently holding the tiny white creature in his hands. The female student's eyes light up with joy as she spots the adorable puppy waiting for her. A bright crystal forms from her joy, though the bewildered Tessa is unable to see the magical object. A magical sparkle follows as Potts shows off the warm crystal, trying to explain its nature to Tessa. A whip and snap sound as Potts pocks away the crystal, declaring himself the most helpful partner ever. A gentle pat follows as Potts smiles confidently, proud of his success in helping the university professor. Tessa shows Potts a social media post, confirming the student officially adopted the puppy and gave him shots. A long-necked, robed creature appears, introduced as Potts' co-worker, who helps humans fall into a deep sleep. Potts proudly introduces two new office cacti named Scarlet and Leonard, hoping to brighten up the workspace. Tessa rejects the plants, leading to a playful argument about office decor and the professor's lonely dating life. A grumpy humph follows as Potts becomes protective of his cactus, while Tessa continues his quiet office work. Floating on a blanket, Potts asks about the mysterious flowers left by Tessa's window in a previous event. Tessa laughs while explaining he caught the culprit, causing Potts to spring up in sudden, intense curiosity. A dramatic but dump underscores Potts' excitement as he asks if the mysterious flower giver actually confessed their love. Tessa explains his family supports an orphan shelter, a place he visits out of a sense of obligation. Potts finds the children's flower gift romantic, while Tessa reveals the flowers came from a kid's workplace. A giggle and humph follow as Potts feels disappointed, while Tessa reflects on the burdens of his popularity. Potts reflects on Tessa's kindness, realizing the professor's struggles with love aren't due to any character flaws. A thwip and hop sound as Potts asks for more details about Tessa's past involvement with the facility.
Tessa explains he once played with the kids, but his current visits involve boring administrative tasks and meetings.
A magical sparkle fills the air as Potts pleads to visit the shelter, hoping to experience it himself. A loud smack follows as Potts makes a logical argument for community service, impressing the skeptical university professor. A whip and hop follow as they discuss the legalities of a non-human playing with orphan children. Tessa smiles while talking on his phone, acknowledging that this weekend trip wasn't part of their original contract. A cheerful chirp follows as the pair starts their weekend with heavy shopping bags and bright smiles. Potts excitedly reveals he bought gifts for the kids, hoping the human children will actually like his choices. Tessa reassures the worried Potts that snacks were already ordered, just as someone calls out to the young master. A slam and hup sound as they enter the facility, where students and staff warmly welcome Tessa back. Potts introduces himself as a volunteer, while Tessa offers his help to the staff at the orphan shelter. A sudden pop and chatter follow as the children swarm the arriving Tessa with excitement and countless questions. A child wishes Tessa would sleep over, making the flinching Potts realize just how popular the professor is. A quick grab and chatter follow as the children lead Tessa away for a tour of the facility. A puff and cough sound as the pair cleans the facility, struggling through the dusty and demanding work. A warm sense of accomplishment fills the room as Tessa and Potts share a quiet, smiling moment together. A clack sounds as they find a quiet place to rest while the children begin their afternoon nap. A tired plop and sigh follow as the pair reflects on the physically demanding but rewarding volunteer work. Tessa and Potts sit in a close, intimate embrace, finding comfort in each other's presence after their chores. Potts is startled by the physical closeness, realizing he almost reacted violently to the professor's touch again. The atmosphere remains quiet and still as the two share a lingering close-up moment on the floor. Potts reflects on Tessa's surprising physical warmth, comparing it to the cold nature of his non-human brother. Potts asks Tessa if he stayed up too late, noticing the professor's exhaustion during their weekend trip. A dramatic ta-da follows as Potts energetically declares the start of laundry time for the entire facility. A cheerful yay and woo echo as Potts organizes the children into teams to tackle the laundry together. Tessa waves as children greet him, and the group groans about weekend school sounding tough. Tessa jokingly claims weekend school is for average kids, causing the students to protest his bluntness. Tessa introduces Potts as a volunteer, revealing the children as the ones who left the flowers earlier. A student questions Potts' age, but the tan-haired boy proudly declares himself an adult employee. The group plays rock, paper, scissors to form teams, followed by a cheerful shout as they finish the game. A creak sounds as Tessa pumps water, while another team prepares to organize the facility's blankets. A student mimics a water hose, and a sudden wave of water splashes the group with laughter. Potts gets drenched in the fun, laughing as a towel is placed over his wet head. A flap sounds as fresh laundry, including a floral blue sheet, is hung out in the sun. Tessa wipes Potts' face, noting he's drenched and suggesting he wait while the boy giggles. Children chatter as they run toward the building, excitedly asking their teacher for snacks. A thwump sounds as Tessa wraps a blanket around Potts, offering extra clothes from his car. Potts stares at the night sky in wonder, marveling at how splendid the sparkling view looks. Tessa asks if Potts' goal involves using his crystal for a job at the company. Potts is frustrated by the oversized clothes Tessa provided as they droop far past his hands. A fox-eared guardian bio reveals a founding member who stepped down to raise the young Potts. A whoosh sounds as a young man confesses his feelings, surrounded by magical sparkles and fluttering petals.
Cupid Potts flies through the air, using a magical device to ensure the couple lives happily ever after.
A caw sounds as a bird Cupid questions Potts about his work with the human couple. Potts and his feathered friend watch as hearts poof around the happy, hugging couple. Potts explains his different tasks, preparing to collect crystals while the bird Cupid gathers hearts. Potts offers Tessa a heart-shaped candy, explaining it was a gift from his Cupid coworker. A nom-nom sounds as Tessa leans in close, and both tilt their heads curiously.
Tessa explains the candy's effect, where one falls for the first person they see after consumption.
A slap and smack sound as Potts hits Tessa, reminding him that he isn't a human. Potts wonders why he only acts this way around Tessa while the professor remains polite. A float sound follows as Potts glides over Tessa's shoulders while the professor greets arriving students.
Tessa tells Potts to stay quiet so he doesn't look like a crazy person talking to himself.
A twirl sounds as Potts sits on a brick wall, asking if Tessa has finished work. Potts hops down and excitedly invites Tessa to play at a nearby park instead of going home. A wow escapes as they arrive at a beautiful area, illuminated by rows of glowing lights. Potts is amazed by the evening display, noticing many new decorations since his last visit. Potts excitedly points out the reindeer decorations, shouting "Kya!" as he celebrates the Christmas season.
An ah escapes as Potts realizes he can use the heart candy as a special item.
A step sounds as Potts approaches Tessa, determined to use the candy to start the professor's heart. Potts laughs gleefully, feeling like a professional, while Tessa watches him with a gentle, knowing smile. A sniff and steps sound as various people and dogs walk through the park's grass zone. A huff escapes as Tessa worries about the cold, noticing Potts is only wearing a shirt. Tessa offers his coat as they head deeper toward the cold lake, despite Potts' initial protests.
A plop sounds as Tessa drapes his oversized coat over Potts, deciding to buy something warmer.
A kya follows as Potts yells about the sudden grab, while Tessa asks why he's blushing. Tessa tells Potts he looks just like a human, leaving the non-human boy completely stunned. Potts remains speechless, eventually muttering about the weight of Tessa's words and many other things.
Tessa looks at Potts with a serious expression, acknowledging that he isn't a living person.
A wave sounds as Potts tries to explain his identity while the professor watches him intently. Tessa reaches out and gently touches Potts' ear, noting that it has turned red from the cold. A twirl and step sounds as the flustered Potts walks away after the intimate physical contact. A rustle sounds as Tessa offers a scarf he purchased, noting its quality is sufficient for now. A thwump sounds as Tessa wraps the coat around Potts, teasing him about their size difference. Tessa suggests looking at the lake to break the silence, while the frustrated Potts protests. A tranquil evening settles over a sparkling lake, illuminated by glowing lights and stationary boats.
Potts asks about rowing the boat, and Tessa dismisses it as a simple decoration while a soft shaw sounds.
After a playful poke-poke, Potts expresses deep gratitude toward Tessa for indulging his persistent presence. Tessa warmly reassures Potts that he truly enjoys the boy's company, even when he flies around him. The atmosphere shifts as Tessa reaches out, his hand gently lingering on the tan-haired boy's face. Closing his eyes, Tessa softly admits he hopes the boy doesn't harbor any negative feelings toward him. Potts blushes intensely under the professor's touch, his initial shock melting into a bright, affectionate smile. A cheerful ha-ha follows as Potts laughs, declaring he is ready to handle even the most difficult work. Donning an oversized coat, Potts looks up and wonders if he truly appears like a living human being. Surrounded by a winter crowd, the pair stands close together, sharing an intimate moment in the public space. Potts gazes out at the glowing bushes and the starry night, lost in his own quiet thoughts. A soft, huh? escapes the tan-haired boy as he contemplates the beautiful, sparkling scenery before him. A deep blush spreads across the boy's face as he processes a sudden, overwhelming realization. A sudden jolt of shock hits Potts as he covers his mouth in realization, eyes wide with alarm. As exams end, Tessa is swarmed by frantic students, their cries of "kya" signaling the professor's busy schedule. Tessa leaves a sticky note explaining he's too busy for a trip, leaving the boy feeling dejected. With a quick grab, Tessa stops Potts and asks him to return in the evening, sparking sudden excitement. Potts joyfully agrees, his face lighting up as he promises to come back later that day. A rhythmic step follows as the professor walks away, a satisfied and mysterious smile on his face. A colleague teases Tessa about being in love, and the professor's lack of denial prompts a surprised exclamation. An illustration introduces the study group of non-human friends preparing for their upcoming Santa Claus written exam. Potts focuses intently on his studies, reflecting on his recent experiences walking around the human world. The group chatters about human inventions like wheeled carts, while Potts offers a nervous ha and a smile. A cold breeze prompts a step as Tessa observes that winter has officially arrived, leaving Potts curious. During a quiet meal, Potts mentions that the first written exam is scheduled for later that same week. A soft clack sounds as Tessa writes, while Potts struggles through a moment of exhaustion and boredom. Potts leans in, sensing a weird energy, causing Tessa to admit his embarrassment with a small smile. Looking worried, the tan-haired boy studies Tessa, who responds with a gentle, reassuring look in his eyes. A light ha-ha follows as Tessa tells the boy not to worry unless it involves his love life. With a sudden flap, Potts prepares his blue blanket, telling the professor he will see him next week. Floating away, Potts wishes Tessa luck on his exams while the professor waves a warm, safe goodbye. Hovering above, Potts asks what is bothering Tessa, noticing the professor's lingering gaze and quiet demeanor. A playful twirl follows as Tessa grabs the boy's blanket, telling him to hurry home before it's late. Tessa looks up with a tender expression, thanking the non-human boy for spending precious time with him. A cheerful bubble of laughter follows as Potts promises to return soon, his face glowing with happiness. Munching on toast, Potts is reminded by his white-haired guardian to double-check for his ID before the trip. Arriving at the station, Potts waits for the Santa Claus train as an announcement echoes through the hall. Amidst a group of nervous friends, one creature trembles while Potts tries to keep everyone calm and focused. A majestic train with large antlers rushes past with a loud "sha," signaling the start of their journey. Potts experiences a nervous but dump rhythm as he counts the many tests required for his upcoming qualification. A nervous fidget follows as Potts waits on the train, wondering what the professor is doing without him. Potts reacts with a panicked eek after learning from a student that Tessa called in sick today. Activating intruder mode, Potts makes a quick slip through the door, shouting for the professor in a panic. Once inside the quiet home, the tan-haired boy stands alone, scanning the room for any sign of Tessa. A soft creak sounds as Tessa enters the room, looking pale and exhausted, surprising the waiting boy. Potts stares in shock, his eyes welling up with worry as he sees the professor's sickly state. A sudden hug follows as Potts clings to Tessa, crying out about how scared he was for him. Checking Tessa's red face, Potts ignores the professor's warnings to stay away and avoid catching the illness. Potts confidently claims he's immune to human diseases, joking that they could even kiss without any risk. The boy looks surprised when Tessa asks him to wait alone for a short moment while he rests. Potts sits alone on a teal sofa as the rain begins to fall, thinking about Tessa's apology. Tessa walks through a fantastical landscape filled with strange, colorful creatures from the non-human world. A rustle sounds as Tessa uses a towel to dry off while mentioning an upcoming school winter festival. Tessa explains how the school's exhibition works while the tan-haired boy listens with wide, curious eyes. The dark-haired professor looks back with a wistful gaze, admitting he wishes the boy had seen the spring festival. Potts scolds the sick Tessa, turning on a blow-dryer with a loud whir to dry the man's hair. A whir continues as Potts carefully dries Tessa's damp hair while the man offers a soft, appreciative smile. Excited students swarm the pair, shouting greetings to Potts as the tan-haired boy waves back with a bright grin. A student asks Potts for his creative opinion, hoping his unique perspective will help them choose the best work. A lively chatter fills the room as they finalize their selection, praising Potts for having such excellent taste. Shouting, "Ta-da!" a student shows off their duck drawings and invites the non-human boy to visit their booth. With a happy nod, Potts agrees to Tessa's blushing suggestion that they visit the winter festival together. A plop sounds as a tired Tessa leans his head on Potts' back after their student friends depart. Sensing a change, Potts looks back with a worried expression as the sick professor continues to lean on him. Tucking the sick man into bed, Potts watches over Tessa as the sound of rain begins to fall outside. Potts wonders why the professor went out in such poor health since the man usually stays safely at home. A mumble escapes Tessa as he admits he should have stayed home, his face flushed with a high fever. Looking down at the sleeping man, Potts speaks softly, telling the professor to rest and get some sleep. A sudden dash sounds as Tessa enters a room, looking startled to find the tan-haired boy waiting for him. A gentle rustle follows as Tessa tucks the boy into bed, watching over him with a quiet, protective gaze. A soft "shah" sounds as Tessa lies down, resting his hand on the boy's back in a comforting gesture. With a rhythmic tap-tap, Tessa gently touches Potts' forehead, a tender smile spreading across the man's face. Leaning in close, the professor looks into the boy's eyes and softly declares that he is not his brother. The next morning, Potts checks the professor's forehead, asking if he slept well and is feeling a bit better. Tessa looks up intently, asking the tan-haired boy if he plans to stay at the house or leave soon. A ba-dump rhythm follows as Potts squeezes Tessa in a hug, overwhelmed by the man's sudden, close presence. Hugging him back, Tessa smiles warmly, and notes that he's happy enough to gain a new magical crystal. Tessa rests his chin on the boy's shoulder, quietly contemplating his next move while they remain in their embrace. Potts plops onto the bed, asking where Tessa went today as the man brushes his hair back casually. Looking at Potts with a gentle, knowing smile, Tessa suggests that it might be time to end their contract. A ghostly whoosh sounds near the window while Potts ponders if it's truly okay for him to stay on Earth. Potts flinches in shock as he realizes a nightmare employee has arrived because the professor fell asleep. With a quick whip, Potts decides to pretend to be a sleeping human to avoid detection by the ghost. Shouting "whoosh," the ghostly figure cries and tells little Tessa to stop working so hard before flying away. A loud slap sounds as the ghosts discuss marriage, leaving the horrified Potts blushing intensely at their wild assumptions. The ghosts pat Tessa's head while imagining a mini professor, causing the trembling Potts to mentally protest. A spring and whoosh follow as Potts bolts upright the moment the ghosts finally depart through the window. Potts sits frozen with a massive blush while the sick professor continues to sleep soundly next to him. Letting out a drop and a ha, the embarrassed boy covers his face, trying to process the ghost's words. A rhythmic brush sounds as the pair cleans their teeth, with Tessa telling the muttering Potts to spit. Shouting "Pwah!" the hungry boy declares that he can't work anymore without having something to eat first. Potts holds up a rubber band with a happy grin, announcing his plan to go out and buy groceries. Dressed in matching hats and casual hoodies, Tessa and Potts walk together through the busy city streets. Potts cheers wow and kia in excitement upon entering a human supermarket for the very first time.
A loud roll sounds as Potts pushes a cart with intense focus, while Tessa glances at him curiously.
Tessa stands in a daze after Potts accidentally slams his shopping cart into a wall with full force. Potts complains about the heavy cart while a throb sounds, prompting Tessa's concern and his silent admission of deep affection. Looking at vegetables, Potts admits he's never experienced shopping like this before, while Tessa tells him to hurry. The boy excitedly suggests buying everything they see, and Tessa laughs, agreeing since he has plenty of money. Potts tosses groceries into the red cart, happily assuring the smiling professor that he can eat every single item. Potts points excitedly at the various food stalls, his eyes glowing with the anticipation of a grand feast. Tessa gives an approving okay as Potts makes a quick dash toward another corner of the supermarket. Staggering under the weight of 2 large boxes, Tessa asks Potts to hold the door for him. A sudden hup sounds as the pair unloads 5 heavy boxes of groceries with a loud done. Tessa reminds the boy he must take responsibility for eating all the massive amount of food they bought. Looking at the boxes of supplies, Tessa tells Potts he is always welcome in his home anytime. Potts asks if the professor often invites students over, while Tessa holds a jar of jam with a smirk. In the kitchen, the pair discusses the lunch menu, with Tessa admitting he might need a recipe. Wearing an apron, the dark-haired Tessa studies a recipe card while preparing to start cooking with a knife. A playful peek from Potts is met with a quick fwhip as Tessa playfully tells the boy to wait. Potts enthusiastically praises human sayings, leaving the professor feeling overwhelmed by the boy's intense and sudden respect. A sudden slap sounds as Potts reacts in shock, while Tessa looks on with confused question marks. Tessa pauses in thought, his face turning a bright red as he reflects on the ghost's mention of marriage. An embarrassed Potts shouts for the professor to stop thinking about the ghost's words, creating a flustered kitchen scene. Clutching his head, the tan-haired boy screams for Tessa to stop confessing as his face heats up in mortification. During an agreed time out, a trembling Potts blames the ghosts while Tessa continues his work in the kitchen. With a gentle smile, Tessa tells the boy to eat while it's hot, playfully calling him darling. Potts tries to maintain his distance, telling the professor to stop while referring to him as a business partner. After a joyful wow, Potts takes a bite and immediately suggests extending their non-human contract for more food. Potts offers to do the dishes, but Tessa suggests they work together to put the clean items away. While cleaning up, the pair reflects on the nature of love and the boy's plan to stay through exams. A soft chew sounds as Tessa leans in and plants a tender, affectionate kiss on the boy's forehead. A sudden jolt follows a quick fwhip as the startled Potts reacts to the unexpected and sweet gesture. A flashback shows a young tan-haired boy with large white wings sitting alone with a distant, lonely expression. A melodic ding echoes as the boy listens to someone playing music, a quiet and contemplative look in his eyes. A small gray rabbit soulfully plays a guitar, singing lyrics about being in danger and on the edge. The rabbit's song continues through the dark space, reflecting on a fall from a cliff and a realization. The winged boy listens as the rabbit sings about flying, despite having nothing beneath his feet in the darkness. A rattle sounds inside a quiet bus where the rabbit plays music for the silent, white-winged child. Letting out a soft rub, the winged boy wipes away his tears while the rabbit's song reaches its end. A sudden pull follows as the white-haired Dita holds the young winged boy close in a protective embrace. The rabbit plays on, singing about a new path and living one's fears without giving up the journey. A rhythmic rattle and clunk sound as the bus travels, with the rabbit and the winged boy sitting quietly. With a sudden poof, a golden-haired man with fox ears celebrates a collection with the white-haired Dita. A quick reach follows as Dita uses a red crystal to examine the life of an old, happy man. Dita looks at the young winged boy, wondering how such a small and innocent child ended up here. A repetitive fwip sounds as Dita investigates the boy's head, trying to understand the child's mysterious nature.
The golden-haired man asks Dita if he already took the boy's crystal, while Dita focuses on the child. The golden-haired man lets out a gasp, shocked that Dita isn't planning to send the boy to the afterlife.
Dita explains the boy isn't glowing, meaning he might be sent to hell if they let him go now. A quiet whisper follows as Dita suggests they watch over the boy until he is ready for the afterlife. Sharing another whisper, the two men worry about the boy's lack of documents or a clear cause of death. Dita reveals the boy's parents are still alive but destined for punishment, frustrating his golden-haired companion.
The two fox-like men stand over the boy's file, pondering what to do with the child they found.
Dita explains that the gates of the afterlife are closed for a month, leaving the boy waiting in silence. The golden-haired man sighs about how troublesome the situation is, while Dita considers seeking professional help. A series of loud bang sounds follow as the pair argues passionately about the best way to help him. Holding the boy close, the golden-haired man agrees to let the child stay at his place for now.
A series of fwit and flick gestures follow as Dita threatens the other man to stay away during rest.
The tan-haired child looks adorable in his new star-patterned shirt, while the yellow-haired man offers Dita some fresh clothes. A sudden smack sounds as the white-haired man kicks Dita for acting inappropriately in front of young Potts. The two men discuss giving the boy a proper name, deciding they cannot call him Kid forever. While the white-haired man yawns in exhaustion, Dita continues to ponder a suitable name for the child. A sharp poke wakes the white-haired man after Dita accuses him of sleeping during their important conversation. A soft whisper sounds as Potts asks about his new name while the white-haired man snores loudly. Tucking the boy into bed, Dita offers a warm goodnight to Potts before they all settle in. A heavy stare comes from an amorphous, horned monster, leaving the white-haired man in silent, wide-eyed contemplation. A sudden jolt follows as the monster recognizes Honeycutt, shocked to see him in a human form. Honeycutt explains his human appearance is due to a home situation, though the monster thinks he looked cuter fluffy. A loud whir sounds as Dita aggressively vacuums, complaining about the dust and shedding from Honeycutt's two tails. Dita continues a cleaning frenzy, ordering Honeycutt to watch Potts while he deals with the messy bedroom. 2 weeks have passed since Potts arrived, yet he still hasn't shown any signs of forming a crystal. Honeycutt watches the boy's laughter, admitting he worries about the hidden nature of the child's soul. A sudden hug follows as Honeycutt pulls Potts close, his expression filled with a quiet, protective intensity. A thwack sounds as Honeycutt rejects Dita's hug while Potts watches the two guardians bicker about dinner. A series of plop sounds echo as Potts plays outside with friendly monsters amidst clouds of soft white fluff. Honeycutt gazes into the distance, tentatively suggesting that they let the boys stay with them permanently. A desperate plea follows as Potts begs his guardians not to send him back to his original home. A gentle brush sounds as Honeycutt strokes the boy's hair, promising he never has to return there again. Delivering a tight squeeze, Honeycutt reassures Potts that he will eventually forget all the pain of his past. Potts looks up with teary eyes, worried that being reborn means he will also forget meeting his guardians. A shake sounds as a sobbing Potts reacts to Honeycutt's claim that forgetting him would be for the best. Honeycutt explains that holding on to his memory means also carrying the burden of the boy's traumatic past. A sudden fwit sounds as Potts rejects the logic, his face flushed with tears and stubborn determination. Wah! Potts wails, declaring he would suffer his old house 100 times just to remember Honeycutt. The white-haired Honeycutt stands in stunned silence, clearly moved by the boy's intense and selfless affection. A series of drip-drip sounds follow as Dita cries, overwhelmed by the emotional exchange between the pair. Letting out a tired ha, Honeycutt pulls the wailing Potts and sniffing Dita into a comforting group embrace. A soft sigh follows as Honeycutt jokingly threatens to put the emotional pair on the naughty list. A quick fwip sounds as Honeycutt prepares to leave, discussing the battle with that old geezer with Dita. A playful pinch follows as Honeycutt assures a smiling Potts that this place is now his true home. Potts laughs as Honeycutt says goodbye, while a blushing Dita celebrates finally being called Uncle Dita. A humph sounds as Honeycutt confronts the amorphous monster in the present, noting it has grown much smaller. Honeycutt reflects on his journey, admitting he lacks confidence in being a grand parental figure to the child. A profile features Dita as employee of the episode, noting his flashy personality and history of being dumped. Back in the present, Potts hands Tessa an invitation, prompting the older man to ask what it is. A radiant beam of joy illuminates Potts' face as he gazes at part of the envelope with sparkling eyes. A soft brush sounds as Tessa reaches out to touch the boy's hair, their eyes meeting intensely. A deep blush spreads across Potts' face as he stammers in reaction to the older man's sudden closeness. Leaning over the desk, Tessa asks if Potts is cold, suggesting he might need to turn on the heater. The pair shares a silent, heavy moment as they stare into each other's eyes from inches away. A sudden thwump sounds as Potts leaps onto the bookshelf, desperately trying to escape the overwhelming tension. Waving his arms, Potts loudly insists that the forehead kiss was just a common greeting, like a goodbye. Potts pouts, complaining that he couldn't even think straight after the unexpected kiss from the previous night. A soft flap sounds as Potts hides his flustered face under his hood, avoiding Tessa's steady gaze. Tessa stares at the boy with a focused, serious expression, his eyes never leaving the blushing Potts. A sudden jolt follows a tight hug as Tessa pulls the boy into a deep, protective embrace. Tessa explains he kissed the boy out of genuine affection, urging him not to feel scared or overwhelmed. Looking downward, a blushing Potts admits that he didn't actually dislike the affection he received. A sudden flinch follows as Tessa leans in for a tender, lingering kiss on the boy's lips. A deeply blushing Potts covers his face in overwhelming embarrassment as the older man leans in close. A soft whisper sounds as Tessa explains they will be staying outside tonight because he is quite busy. Delivering a firm squeeze to the boy's hand, a quiet rustle echoes through the woods as Potts follows Tessa through a landscape of bare, wintry trees. Entering a room filled with a gloomy graduating class, Tessa and Potts find the students looking completely exhausted. Tessa offers to order food for everyone, prompting a chorus of cheers while the confused Potts looks on. While the students celebrate their upcoming feast, Tessa prepares to pay for the meal on his mobile device. A sudden zip sounds as a purple-haired girl approaches Potts with a tape measure, asking to measure him. A quiet awe escapes Potts as the students begin taking his measurements while Tessa watches the scene unfold. A rhythmic roar of chatter follows as Tessa asks what they're doing, leaving the baffled Potts without answers. The excited students realize the clothes will fit perfectly and decide to measure the boy's feet next. Dropping to her knees, the girl asks Potts to be their model while he sits there in shock. Letting out a surprised "wah!" The students explain their original model canceled and they cannot change the outfit's size. A melodic sparkle surrounds the girl as she clasps her hands together, desperately pleading for Potts' help. With a quick glance toward the hardworking students, Potts considers the request while reflecting on their dedication. Recalling the sight of the tired students refusing food to keep working, Potts feels a surge of empathy. Letting out a joyful ha-ha, Potts agrees to help, prompting the purple-haired girl to cheer with a loud hurrah. A profile features a wish as the employee of the episode, manifesting from human desires before they die. A series of nom sounds follow as Potts eats a snack, wondering why Honeycutt hasn't returned his calls. Potts continues eating while feeling dejected, worried that his frequent texting has caused Honeycutt to block him. A soft flip sounds as a white-haired boy reads while Potts rambles about buying a gift for Honeycutt. Potts calls the boy cold, questioning how Dita could have liked him for so many centuries. With a sudden poof, a fidgeting Potts reacts to the white-haired boy's claim that Dita's calls are annoying. A melodic sparkle accompanies the reveal of a telecrystal as Potts presents the magical device with a grin. A sudden gasp follows a loud bubble as Potts activates the crystal, forcing a call with the retreating Honeycutt. Winking playfully, a radiant Potts celebrates his success while the white-haired boy looks on in silent disbelief. Wrapped in a blue cape, a floating Potts wonders if Dita is truly indifferent to Honeycutt's obvious feelings. A quick glance passes between the pair as Potts watches Tessa sitting quietly in a moment of reflection. Letting out a soft ha-ha, Tessa smiles warmly while thinking that he can no longer ignore his feelings. An indignant escapes Potts as he tells Tessa to stop touching his cape for his own safety. A soft chew sounds as Tessa leans in and plants a tender, affectionate kiss on the boy's forehead. A series of chew sounds follow as Tessa showers Potts with affection while mentioning the food at home. A sudden poof follows a quick toss as Potts throws an orange cat at Tessa to stop him. Trembling with nerves, Potts insists this behavior is against their contract, while Tessa holds the mewing orange cat. A rhythmic roar of protest follows as a blushing Potts declares that their closeness violates their formal agreement. Letting out a soft foo-foo, a smiling Tessa suggests that any love forming a crystal is valid. Potts sits wrapped in his cape, explaining that he simply hasn't found a human that he likes yet. Letting out a soft hee-hee, Tessa jokingly accepts the blame, prompting a shocked shout from the flustered Potts. Slumping forward, Potts laments his past as an honor student and a prideful employee of his company. Potts reflects on his desperate efforts to be seen as more than just a human Honeycutt took in. Reaching out to hold the boy's hand, Tessa gently reassures Potts that he doesn't need to be perfect. A series of sparkling images illustrate different human destinies, from living alone to finding love or achieving goals. A looming, dark monster reminds his companions that their most important rule is to remain unmoved by emotions. The shadowy figure explains that while they see human happiness, that joy can never truly belong to them. Potts listens in silence as the monster declares they only take the energy necessary for their own survival. Looking downward, Potts sits quietly as he processes the heavy and impersonal nature of his kind's existence. A blushing Potts looks up and asks if Tessa is truly okay with him forming a love crystal. Letting out a heavy sigh, Potts prepares to reveal the true reason why he currently looks human. A flashback shows the golden-haired Dita in human form, much to the surprise of a younger Potts. A sudden hup follows as Dita lifts the boy, explaining how comfortable it is to have 10 fingers. Potts admits he could simply take Tessa's love crystal and erase his memories entirely. Clutching his chin, the boy worries his true nature as a dead human will terrify Tessa. Potts fears the older man will only feel pity or disbelief regarding his complicated, ghostly existence. A quick slip sounds as Tessa pulls the boy closer, calmly acknowledging the heavy weight of the secret. Leaning against Tessa, Potts admits he never wants to lie or grow apart from his protector. Tessa stares down with a soft, meaningful gaze, preparing to reveal his own deepest, unspoken thoughts. Reaching into a swirling, magical substance, a pair of hands prepares to bridge their two different worlds. The pair shares a gentle, grounding moment as they clasp hands, solidifying their newly deepened emotional bond. Potts looks upward with wide eyes, stunned by the unexpected warmth and acceptance radiating from the man. Letting out a soft "haha," Tessa laughs, noting that he also lacks the ability to fly. Tessa suggests Potts shouldn't choose too quickly, offering to help him find his own human match. A series of tilt sounds follow as Potts frantically shakes Tessa, desperate to reclaim his focused attention. A sharp grit sounds as Potts shouts, offended that Tessa compares his serious confession to a chipmunk. Giving the man a firm shove, Potts angrily questions how a chipmunk comparison can be considered serious. Letting out a soft Tessa wonders if Potts is objectively cute or just adorable in his eyes. Tessa explains that seeing someone as cute is a sign of falling in love, leaving Potts speechless. A playful spin sounds as Tessa twirls the boy on his lap, ignoring Potts' demand to be released. Leaning in close, Tessa declares he isn't finished with their conversation, leaving Potts wide-eyed and flustered. Potts leans against the man's chest, insisting that Tessa must apologize after finishing his sudden, bold antics. A soft brush sounds as Tessa strokes the boy's hair, choosing silence over apologies for the past. Delivering a tight squeeze, Potts asks if the older man is scared of his true, dead nature. A quick top sounds as Tessa leans in, reassuring the boy that he feels no fear at all. The pair shares a deep, lingering kiss as Tessa finally acts on the intense affection he feels. A soft creak sounds as the embrace deepens, their connection growing stronger through the intimate, quiet moment. A rhythmic clack follows as they hold each other tightly, completely lost in the warmth of their love. A sudden slide sounds as they lean over the desk, the office fading away during their passionate embrace. A rhythmic ba-dump follows as the blushing Potts lies down, his heart racing from the overwhelming closeness. Letting out a tired ha, Tessa gazes down, mesmerized by the boy's radiance, even without a love crystal. A series of top sounds echo as Tessa discusses a modeling test shoot with a student over the phone. Potts complains that Tessa's proximity tickles, urging the distracted professor to focus on his student's messages. Tessa wonders if typical dead people care about mundane things, noting that Potts is truly a unique spirit. The man observes that no normal ghost spends all year dreaming of making presents for children. Tessa looks at the boy with a tender, devoted expression, his affection evident in every silent gaze. Leaning upward, Potts surprises the man with another affectionate kiss, further sealing their growing commitment. A series of hic sounds follow as the flustered Potts begins to hiccup from his intense embarrassment. A soft rustle sounds as Tessa watches the hiccuping boy, his expression softening with amusement and care. A sudden plop follows as Tessa pulls the boy's head to his shoulder, urging him to cry out loud. Tessa pats the boy's head as a sobbing Potts finally lets out his pent-up emotions and tears. Looking into the boy's eyes, Tessa makes a solemn promise to love Potts regardless of his nature. A rhythmic roar of chatter surrounds Potts as he returns to a realm of strange, friendly monsters. A soft pot sounds as a large monster greets Potts while the boy tries to organize his messy desk. A sudden thwump sounds as Potts collapses onto soft cushions, reflecting on all his hard work on Earth. Letting out a soft hee-hee, Potts smiles while thinking about his upcoming second test and past achievements.
While Potts reads, a vision of Tessa in a lab coat appears, enthusiastically cheering for his success. Potts leaps into the waiting arms of the older man, their reunion filled with mutual joy and excitement. The pair shares a happy hug as Tessa warmly welcomes the boy back with a radiant smile. A rhythmic roar of chatter follows as Potts explains his morning nerves and busy school schedule to Tessa. Looking exhausted, Tessa admits he couldn't sleep a wink because he missed the boy so much. A sharp smack sounds as an outraged Potts hits the man, yelling in reaction to his bold claim. A rhythmic badump follows as Potts yells at the smiling Tessa, demanding a warning before such cute behavior. A rhythmic bustle of chatter fills the room as the purple-haired girl welcomes Potts and Tessa to the early shoot. The students cheer for Potts, calling him their savior, while Tessa warns them not to overwhelm the flustered boy. Amidst joyful chatter, the students jokingly worship Potts, prompting Tessa to explain that seniors often act wild before graduation. The purple-haired girl explains that Potts will play both a human and a god to show love's transformative power. Tessa nods in approval as the girl shows Potts the reference clippings and costume designs for their upcoming project. Sitting quietly on the sidelines, Tessa watches the preparations with a gentle, supportive smile on his face. A sudden whoosh sounds as Tessa reacts with a start, noticing a strange presence manifested in the air beside him. The white-haired, fox-eared Dita appears sitting beside the silent Tessa, looking toward the busy students with a neutral expression. With a soft thwump, the fox-eared spirit settles in, announcing he is here for Potts, while Tessa stares in surprise. Dita tells Tessa to look away, warning him that staring at a spirit makes humans look like they're talking to air. Letting out a soft ha-ha, Tessa laughs while Dita observes that Potts simply cannot help but make many human friends.
Dita acknowledges their good chemistry, but delivers a somber reminder that their time together will eventually reach an end.
Potts emerges in a stunning, ornate blue costume, adorned with dark butterflies, looking nervous under the intense collective gaze. The students praise the look as the absolute best, while Tessa stares in silent awe at the boy's radiant appearance. Wrapped in his intricate ruffles and butterflies, Potts stands quietly as he processes the overwhelming attention from the group. A series of clack sounds follow as the students celebrate their professional work, convinced they have created something truly amazing.
Potts smiles weakly, privately worrying that a ghost shouldn't leave such permanent records of himself in the human world.
A sudden flash sounds as the purple-haired girl directs Potts to tilt his head while Tessa watches the photoshoot. Letting out a soft hee-hee, Potts smiles brightly, finally relaxing into the role as he enjoys the creative process. A series of flash sounds follow as Potts decides to keep one photo as a future gift for his protector. Later, Tessa and Potts walk through the city, reflecting on the chaotic but enjoyable experience of the test shoot. Beaming with joy, Potts admits that receiving a lifetime's worth of compliments made him feel genuinely helpful and happy. The pair decides to head back to work, their spirits lifted by the successful collaboration with the enthusiastic students. Tessa whispers a sudden request for Potts to come closer, sparking a look of pure confusion from the boy. A soft chew sounds as Tessa leans in for a tender kiss, leaving the wide-eyed Potts completely stunned and breathless.